What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning into yet another episode of the Sports Muse podcast. I am your host, Kevin Brumley, and I am joined by my co-host today, John. John, how you doing?
Doing good. Talking football. Hopefully we have a season, so that's always good.
I'm with you, man, 100%. So we are talking about the AFC North. We've talked about Steelers. We talked about Baltimore. We've talked about the Browns. Now we're on the Bengals. And I'm curious, Cincinnati, what is your season predictions? How high are you guys on Burrow for this 2020 season? So drop your predictions in the comments because I'm curious what you have to say. So now you have to listen to what we have to say about the Bengals. All right. So last year, the Bengals were really disappointing, 2-14. I don't think anybody thought they were going to be world beaters, but I also don't think anybody thought 2-14 was in the realm of possibilities. They were decimated with injuries on the offensive line. So they were in trouble from the start, right? AJ Green goes down early, so it was tough. It was tough for Cincinnati. When we look at their additions, they brought in Mackenzie Alexander, Von Bell, DJ Reader, which I like. I'm a big fan of DJ Reader. They got Trey Waynes. I think they kind of overpaid for Trey Waynes, if I'm being honest. And they tagged AJ Green. For departures, the Red Rocket is no longer in Cincinnati. It's a different day. All right. Andy Dalton gone. Tyler Eifert gone. Cordy Glenn, see you later. John Miller, Darquise Dennard, and Dre Kirkpatrick. All those guys are gone. So what are you thinking about, before we start talking about the draft, what are you thinking about additions and subtractions of Cincinnati?
Yeah, I like the DJ Reader sign, and I agree with you 100%. I don't like Trey Waynes personally. In 3 years, $42 million, I thought was a lot. In Minnesota, I felt like the last couple of years he kind of just wasn't there. Like, he just didn't pan out as a first-round draft pick.
Like, I think he's good. That's it. Like, yeah, no more.
That's what I mean. Like, 3 years, 42. I think that's too much.
Yep.
But yeah, AJ Green, the franchise tag. I imagine that they'll sign him. I think I saw some stuff like 3 years, like $50 million is like what the expected contract was. And I love AJ Green, so I'm all for that. I've always been a huge fan of Dre Kirkpatrick, so I hate to see him go, but I think it was just between the addition to the departure, not counting the draft. I think it was just mediocre. Didn't lose a ton, didn't gain a bunch. Hopefully it works out that DJ Reader and stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we go to the draft picks, and this season is all about Joe Burrow, the number 1 overall pick. They also got T. Higgins, Logan Wilson, and Akeem Davis Gaither. The draft's pretty good, man. T. Higgins kind of slid a little bit, so they might have got a value. Some people aren't crazy about T. Higgins. So it's kind of, a matter of, what you think personally. But the Joe Burrow is the main thing, man. He's now the guy. He's the franchise. Can he become that Ben Roethlisberger for Cincinnati and the AFC North? Can he be that guy that's the face for 15 years? That's the question. What are your thoughts of the roster as a whole?
With the draft, Joe Burrow, hopefully he, if he can replicate what he did last year, that'd be awesome. But it was just a 1 year thing for him. So I don't know. I was all for them trading back and actually not taking Burrow, but it is what it is. Because I like Dalton too, so maybe I'm a little biased there. The T. Higgins I thought was a little. I wish it would have went receiver and would have went with something like offensive line, something to help the team better. If they plan on signing AJ Green, and then I think Tyler Boyd, he had 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I really like Tyler Boyd a lot, and so I kind of wish they would have went somewhere else besides receiver there.
That's fair.
And got something like a offensive line, just something to. Help Joe Burrow, because he's coming into, I feel like, one of the worst rosters, in the league. I don't know. And I'm just not a big T. Higgins fan. His combine numbers were bad. So, I don't know. But, other than that, the roster, I don't think they can compete with those. With those good to better teams. I think it's going to be a long season.
So, I think if the offensive line holds up, I really like that offense. I think you can have a discussion that the Bengals might have the best wide receiver core in the NFL. With Green, Higgins, Boyd, and Ross. I like that, man. I know John Ross is the human hamstring pool, but I like that core. I think that's a really good, top 4 guys. A little weak at the tight end position with losing Eifert, but, Eifert hardly ever played because he was constantly injured, But when we go to the defensive line's good, not great. The backers I don't like. I'm not crazy about any of their backers. As far as secondary, I like Jesse Bates a lot. I love William Jackson III. He got picked 1 pick ahead of Pittsburgh. We ended up getting Artie Burns, who sucks. I'm glad he's gone. But I wanted William Jackson III bad, and I really like him. But I'm not crazy about Von Bell. I'm not crazy about Trey Waynes. As far as offense, I think they set up Burrow for early success. But as far as winning games, their defense needs a lot of work, I think.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. And maybe instead of offensive lineman, maybe got a cornerback or something in that spot where T. Higgins. But I like their DN a lot, or their D line a lot. Dunlap, Atkins, and then hopefully DJ Reader can bring something too. But also I love Joe Mixon, but I just wish maybe with Joe Burrow, it'll open up the run game more and with the offensive line, hopefully it's better because I think he could be a easily top 5 back, but just last year he was on such a bad team. There was no running room. So I think, that was tough. But I think you're right. Their offense does have weapons, but it's just whether that line's, if they're going to hold up or not. Because I think that's their biggest weakness is their line at the moment. And their cornerbacks.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. We didn't even talk a lot about Joe Mixon. People, were crazy high on him when he was drafted. We see the talent. Joe Mixon's had moments of, brilliant, and then he's had moments of kind of subpar games. So, if Joe Mixon can be the back that we think he can be, that offense is good. It's really powerful. As far as my biggest question, man, it's about the O-line again. PFF had them ranked as 30th last year. They weren't good. Hopefully with the injuries, that was the reason. Once everybody's back, hopefully they can be, a good offensive line. Because we look at, use David Carr as an example. I'm not saying David Carr was as talented as Joe Burrow, but he got ruined his first year in Houston because he was sacked like 60 times. I don't want to see Joe Burrow, go back to Sam Darnold, when he said he's seeing ghosts. I don't want to see that for Joe Burrow. If he fails, let him fail because he wasn't good enough. Don't let him fail because you ruined him his rookie season by just taking a beating, right? Does that make sense? Yeah, I just think you need to protect the franchise.
Yeah, that's something we saw the Browns do so much to their quarterbacks. They would bring quarterbacks in and they would just get destroyed. It happened time and time again. And that's why I'm just not big on. I think that's why I'm so down on the Bengals this year. Is I just don't like what they did on the offensive line. They do get Jonah Williams back, but then, the only one they drafted was a 6th-round pick. I don't know, maybe invest a little bit more than that. And then, I don't know how to say his name, Xavier Su'a-Filo. And then, on PFF, he, is graded, terribly. So, I don't know. I just wish they would have brought in a little more talent for that offensive line. To protect Joe Burrow, if you're going to invest in a quarterback, really invest in him.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. They have Billy Price too. We'll kind of see how it plays out. But yeah, I don't know. Let's hope for the best, I guess. As far as Joe Burrow's future. How do you think the Bengals stack up in the AFC North?
Again, in other divisions, I'd probably give them a few more wins, but this AFC North is just stacked. The Bengals. Not the Bengals. The Browns easily make the play. All the other 3 teams easily. We could see making the playoffs.
Sure.
Bengals, I don't know if anyone other than Bengals fans really could see a playoff run. But so I just think that this year they're going to settle into a 4th place finish in this. Hopefully we see some things from Joe Burrow and things to build off of because I don't think this year is going to be like the year that they make a run for it.
And I'm completely with you. I have them finishing 4th in the division, but I think that's okay. And I think as a Bengals fan, I think you're fine with that because as long as you're taking a step in the right direction, the record's not the end all be all for this year. It's about the future. Mm-hmm. It's about building and going forward. So yeah, 4th in the division, I think that's where they'll be. But like I said, it's not about the wins and losses this year. It's just about progressing. What do you think the record prediction is going to be this year?
I went back and forth between a couple of them. I was 4-12 and 5-11. Because at first I had 5-11. And I was like, I was looking at their schedule. I was like, that's a lot. But then I felt like only 2 wins extra for Joe Burrow, and then hopefully a healthy team. I mean, I would hope they won more than 2 games in last year, but I settled on 4-12. I don't know. I just think the division's tough. So if they steal any games from, the Ravens or Steelers, that'll help. But I don't see that happening.
So this is the first one in a while we've been a little bit different on. I'm a little bit higher on the Bengals than you. I have them at 6-10, and I feel like they might get it rolling toward the end of the season a little bit when some teams are getting tired, some teams are getting hurt. Once Joe Burrow kind of gets his legs out for under him a little bit more with the speed of the NFL.
That's fair.
I feel like a 6-10 seems appropriate. If I had to go in a different record, I'd say 5-11. So I think they're going to be competitive. I don't think they're going to get, even though they're losing a majority of their games, I feel like a lot of their games are going to be close, potentially 1-score games within striking distance. So, and that's the direction I think as a Bengals fan, you have to be happy with.
Definitely. I think a big thing for me, 4-12, I don't know what to expect from Zach Taylor. I feel like everyone that was on that Sean McVay coaching staff got a job. They were just like, oh, Sean McVay, come get a job on our team. So he didn't have a lot of experience. So I don't know. I don't know because I kind of was like, I don't want to take last year as what I think of Zach Taylor because I just want to throw last year away. The roster is terrible. He came into a bad situation. So I think this year is I'll try to judge him based on this year more so than last year. So I'm hoping he comes on strong.
No, I think that's completely fair. And do you have any parting shots about the Cincinnati Bengals?
I kind of have 2 because I couldn't decide between the one. I think AJ Green. These are both more like fantasy, I guess. But AJ Green is being undervalued. His ADP, I think I saw him is in the 60s. I think with a whole year rest, basically. He's so talented. We've seen him. I don't know if he's finished in the bottom 20 of wide receivers ever in his career, other than obviously last year.
Sure.
But I think he's being undervalued right now. But I think Joe Burrow. Just this year mostly, not so much his future. But I think he'll be great for fantasy. I don't personally think it's obviously going to turn into wins, but I think that he can be. Great for a fantasy team in Dynasty. I don't see why you wouldn't invest in him. He's so athletic. His running abilities. How does that not turn into fantasy points?
Sure, and I'm with you on that. To kind of get out of the fantasy spectrum are we 100% sure Joe Burrow is the guy we saw last year? That's my parting shot is, he was the number 1 overall pick, but he only had 1 year of production. He wasn't really good. Before this past year at LSU, they had him as a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, was his projection. He absolutely blew up and he killed it. And, he had one of the greatest college seasons of all time. But I'm just kind of curious, is it finally he found the right system? Is it finally, he got the targets around him? Is Joe Burrow the man that we saw at LSU in 2019? I don't know. It's interesting.
I agree with you there. And I think if you look at the teams he was on, if you look at, the team now, based on the roster, I don't know. Their roster is just not as talented as other teams. I think, I don't know. I think that's fair to say. Maybe other people wouldn't say that. But last year at LSU, how many people on LSU got drafted? They clearly had just an absurd amount of talent on that team. So was it more that really pushed Joe Burrow into that upper echelon? Or, you're right. Was it him that just took the step forward? Maybe took training, maybe something clicked in his mind. I don't know. But yeah, it's tough to tell. People always make mistakes on scouting. Look how many quarterbacks bust and everything. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not as high on him as other people, but hopefully it works out.
Yeah, as a Bengals fan, you're definitely fingers crossed and hoping you have an all-pro Hall of Fame quarterback at the helm. So, guys, if you liked the episode, click like, click subscribe. And like I said, drop your season predictions down in the comments because we want to hear them. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later.